She is the reigning, defending UFC strawweight champion of the world. It feels good to say that again. I got to be honest. I am always happy to speak to Carla Esparza. Carla, welcome back. Congratulations on your win. Congratulations on your wedding. Congratulations on being champ again.
Thank you so much. All amazing things in my life. I'm so happy right now. To have the belt back and to be married. It's a good month.
Yeah, absolutely. I texted you after the fight, of course. I didn't want to bother you on you right after because your wedding was literally 6 days later, so I can only imagine that. But I saw the photos from the wedding. I saw everything with the ceremony. How, kind of give me the emotion of that, winning the title and then getting married. So, I don't know, how do you encapsulate all that into one emotion?
It felt like a fairy tale. It's the fighter fairy tale. Winning the belt is every fighter's dream, and finding the love of your life and the person to share your life with, I would say, is probably everybody's dream. So it was definitely, I felt like I was in a fairy tale.
Yeah, I know I'm not the only person who said it, but I feel like I was at least one of the first people. So I do want to take a little credit because I told you when we spoke way before the fight, I said, you got to wear the title down the aisle. If you win, everything goes well, you win, you got to, and you did. I was so proud to see it. I was like, yes, she did it. She wore the title at the wedding.
Yeah, it's so cool. You had that idea and then a couple other people suggested as well. And I was like, dude, how can you find a better and new accessory piece? Something old, something borrowed, something new, something blue. It's perfect.
Yeah, I talked to Felice Herrig a few days ago, and we were talking because she was obviously at your wedding. And I said, when I talked to Carla, I'm telling her I'm taking full credit for that because I did put that idea in your head. I said, I'm taking full credit for that idea.
Yeah, such a great idea. She was the one. She was the Dana White putting the belt on at the wedding, so it was cool.
That's awesome. Was it also, we know that, as a fighter, you rarely get a break, but I mean, how perfect was that to win the title, get married, go on a honeymoon? I saw your photos. It looked like it was just a good escape for a little while.
Oh, most definitely. After the hustle and bustle of a fight camp, that's months of sacrifices and commitments and long training days. And then the wedding week is just crazy and hectic. It was definitely nice to have that week to kind of decompress and do a little bit of nothing.
Yeah. Now, this is a weird question. I saw you posted the other day, you got your new driver's license since you got married, which is awesome. Of course, you get that. Now, I'm curious because, of course, you are Carla Esparza. Everyone knows you as the champion. Are you going to change your name, with the UFC stuff? Or are you going to leave it? Because I know different people do different things. I know Joanne Calderwood changed her name to Joanne Wood. There's nothing wrong with keeping your name, obviously, but I'm curious. I saw you posted the driver's license. So I was curious, are you keeping your name? Are you changing it? What's going on?
I'm not 100% sure. I haven't really decided what I want to do. At least with Calderwood, that name sounds just like almost a shortened version of her name. So it almost just flows. You can barely tell. But for me, I haven't decided. I think, just for the fans to keep it less confusing. Wait, Carla Lamelli, who's that? I'm definitely towards the down, the end of my career, my last couple years or whatever. So, changing at this point, I'm not sure if it makes sense. It's something that I really kind of have to sit on and think about.
Yeah, it's a professional name at this point, right? It's hard to go away from that because if you were 2 years into your career, maybe, but you're the freaking UFC champion, 2-time champion, it would be hard for people. And even if you change it, people are still going to call you Carla Esparza. I would have a hard time remembering not to call you Carla Esparza. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I mean, it would be nothing more than just a business name. But I mean, in my personal life, I'm going to be known as Carla Lamelli. And it's almost like this new chapter in life.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not going to spend a ton of time, talking about the past, but I do want to ask you, now you've had a little bit of time to reflect and, some time has passed. Of course, you've been incredibly busy with the wedding and your honeymoon and everything, but have you had a chance to go back and rewatch the fight with Rose since then? I think I remember hearing you say you did watch it right after, but have you rewatched it?
I think I rewatched it maybe once or twice, right after, just to kind of, the night of the fight, I think I was trying to find clips on YouTube or just trying to find what I could. And then I actually got to see the fight later and just kind of reflect on what happened and, just kind of study it a little bit, but I haven't seen it since then.
Yeah, I know you've kind of talked about this a little bit in other interviews, but listen, I mean, you've acknowledged it wasn't the barn burner fight that a lot of people expected it to be, especially considering how the first fight went, very dominant win for you. But
Yeah.
I did rewatch it, and I said to myself, listen, was it the greatest fight in the world? No, I mean, I don't think you'd say that either. I don't think Rose would say that either, but. I was very confident in you winning. I can't remember. I think the night of the fight, I think I scored a 49-46 for you, or maybe 50-45. I can't remember. It was a pretty dominant win in that way. But listen, they're not all going to be that way, right? Like, they're not all going to be barn burners. They're not all going to be fight of the nights. And at the end of the day, you won. And I don't think there's any question that you won.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, I would have to say I agree with all of that. Didn't win in the dominant way that I wanted, but I felt that I kept my composure. It's funny enough that even when I did my jujitsu match a few months earlier, the match was just, we were on the ground and I was like wanting more action, but I forget what happened. Maybe she was holding me or something. And for me, I'm like, okay, I want to keep this exciting for the fans. And I like picked her up and I slammed her and then I cut my, got split open. So, I think it's the learning experiences over time, like, not letting the emotions and the fans, sway you away from your game plan. I think, I was coming forward a lot and I was trying to make things happen, but it's, kind of hard when someone's not engaging. I think if I would have gotten really wild, I mean, Rose is one of the most dangerous fighters in the world. Like, I would have got knocked out.
Yeah.
And that's a given.
Yeah, well, there's, again, and this is not to just like take a knock at her, but it takes two to tango, right? Like, you got to put part of it back on her. And I think that, her fear, let's say, of the takedown, fear of the wrestling, fear of going back to the ground with you, played a huge part in how she fought. I mean, you could tell she did not want to engage in those moments because when you did get close, you took her down. And so that was kind of like the moment where you kind of felt like she didn't want to engage because she knew that was going to be the result. So again, it takes two to tango. I'm not sitting there like taking a shot at her, but again, it's not on you. There's also another person in the cage with you there.
Yeah, I think I hearing what happened like through my manager who manages both of us. I think her corner and her game plan was kind of just waiting for me to maybe make a mistake and get wild and come in like too wild and aggressive. And they were kind of just she kept her composure too. And you had two kind of opposing game plans and it just kind of, led to a result like this, which is unfortunate because, you never want to have a fight like that. And, it's a bummer. You want the fans to be happy and excited about your fight.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you're coming off the last fight against Yan Zhao Nan where you go out there and just bludgeon her, into the canvas. So, it's one fight. Like I said, it sucks. I mean, that's all it is to it. Let me ask you this, Carla, because I asked you this question beforehand, and it was almost impossible to answer because you hadn't gone through the moment. Now you have. You won, and you were the first ever UFC strawweight champion. It was an incredible moment. I was there. It was a really cool moment coming off the show, The Ultimate Fighter, going through all of the things you had to go through to get to that moment and become champion. Now you're a two-time champion, which, again, is a very rare thing in our sport. Does one moment stand out ahead of the other in terms of, like, which title feels better, or are they equal? Like, because you did have to go through a lot to get back here.
Yeah, most definitely. I would say they're both, just these fantastic moments that are some of the best moments in my life. Definitely now that I've been married, I'd say that the two wins and the, getting married are top three moments in my life. I would say that winning the title the first time was probably like a bigger moment for me just because I didn't even expect to be in the UFC when I started my career, and just having that opportunity and being able to make history, and especially doing it in such a dominant fashion. Like when you get your hand raised, you're just like, you feel this like feeling of excitement. Like there's no question I like dominated, I won. But then going into a fight that was just, a little, a bit lackluster. It's still this amazing feeling of winning a title that's an accumulation of not just one night, but like all of these wins and all this work. But, it definitely is not quite as satisfying when you win like in a decision like that, as opposed to getting a finish.
Sure, understandable. I'm curious, Carla, I think a lot of people talk about this more when your career's over, and so maybe this is a question a little too early for this, but I'm going to ask it anyways. we talk about the greatest fighters of all time in certain weight classes. You talk about John Jones, the light heavyweight. You talk about Anderson Silva, middleweight, so on and so forth. And I know, a lot of people, and I get it. I mean, listen, Joanna Jędrzejczyk was an incredible champion, 5-time defending champion, all those kind of things. But the longevity that you've shown, becoming the first champion, always facing the best competition, and now becoming a 2-time champion. And the story's not written yet because obviously you want to go out and defend your title several times now as you move forward. But do you hope, or does it even matter that you get in that conversation, the greatest of all time? Because it's hard not to put you right there. I mean, I think, again, if Joanna's right there, I think it's you and Joanna if we're going to make the argument right now. And again, I'm going to talk to you about Joanna in a second because, of course, she retired. But does that even matter to you? Because, again, like, to do what you did and the resume you put together and the longevity you've had is pretty incredible. I know you're not the kind of person to pat yourself on the back like that, but it is kind of incredible when you think about what you've done and then doing it to this point, becoming champion again.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, to even be in those talks for this division, who, in my opinion, is, the most, probably like the toughest and with the most ice on it division of the females in the UFC, like to even be in those talks for a division like this, for me, it's just an honor. And, even whether it's known as the GOAT or one of the best, to be in this division. I mean, at the end of the day, like having that title isn't the biggest thing in the world for me, but just, being known as making history and being one of the best to ever do in this division is, something that hopefully in the history books, I look forward to having that said about me.
Yeah, well, if you retire tomorrow, you're already going to have that said about you, Carla. Just throwing that out there right now. You can go ahead and retire tomorrow and you're already going to be in that conversation, just to say it. I am curious because going into last weekend, we already heard that, the winner is Zhang Weili and Joanna Jędrzejczyk was going to be your next opponent. Dana White had already said that. I'll get more on that in a second, but of course we know the result. Zhang Weili landed that incredible spinning back fist and knocked out Joanna, and then afterwards Joanna retired. Now, you and Joanna were so attached to each other because, of course, you kind of rushed out of the fight with Rose and then right into the fight with Joanna, and it looked like maybe we were going to see the rematch. A lot of people were kind of excited about that. I know you said it's one you would love to have back. You would love to get that one back. By all accounts, probably never going to happen now. She retired, and I take Joanna at her word. She doesn't strike me as the kind of person who's going to decide a year from now, I want to start fighting again. Because she was already gone for 2 years. I have a hard time believing she's just going to change her mind and unretire. Can I get your thoughts on Joanna and when you heard the news that she was retiring? Was there disappointment? Were you just like, good for you, you know, kind of going on your own terms? Like, what was your emotion in that and seeing her retire?
For me, I was definitely a little surprised, but not surprised just because, she'd been taking a lot of losses this last couple of years to high level opponents, of course, and, took 2 years off. And, I think when she kind of felt that, she wasn't going to be fighting for the title anymore, I think for her, if she can't be fighting the best to be the best, she loses her motivation to be in the sport. So, I understand that with her because I feel like she was sitting, waiting these 2 years because she wanted a title fight. But I mean, at the end of the day, like she's done a lot for this division and she's one of the greater fighters that's, been in this division or even across any of the divisions. So definitely, wish her the best and her life after fighting.
Yeah, I told you this a while ago. I think like maybe a year ago, maybe it was going into the Yan Xiaonan fight. I said, your longevity is a pretty incredible thing because we don't see fighters stay at the top of the sport for as long as you have. And I think at the time I mentioned, I was like, we talked about Claudia Gadelha. I was like, man, that's a rematch I hope you get because, I thought you won. That's not a whole other conversation. But I was like, I'd love to see it. And then she retired. Same thing with Joanna. It's kind of crazy. Like, I know you wanted that rematch. It would have been a cool story for you to go out and avenge that loss, all those kind of things. But now she's retired. Like, again, while it's disappointing you don't get that fight back with Joanna because I know you want it, there's got to be something said about, your longevity, that you're still here. Not only are you still here, you're champion again. Like what you're doing is pretty incredible when some of your contemporaries, some of your greatest rivals have called it a career already.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, I look back to all my losses in my career and, people, everyone's that I've lost to, I believe in my career has either retired or, been kicked out of the UFC and kind of probably on the verge of retiring, like had a bunch of losses in a row or things like that. So, I'm definitely proud of myself to, be at the top of this division, not only since I've been in the UFC, but for years before I came in the UFC. I was the Invicta FC strawweight champion. That was the highest division you could be in, highest promotion you could be the best in at the time before we were welcomed into the UFC. So, I think since my first or second year of fighting, I've been in the top 10, and I don't think I've left it in 12 years. So it's definitely something an accomplishment I'm proud of.
Yeah. So now, as I mentioned, going into the fight, Dana White had already announced that the winner of that fight was going to get the next title shot. Of course, you got Marina Rodriguez out there, a fighter you faced and defeated. You're the champion now, and I know as champion, you just fight, pretty much whoever the UFC is going to put in front of you. You no longer have to call people out because, you're the champion. But is that the right call? I mean, Zhang Weili knocking out Joanna the way she did is incredible. I mean, Joanna's never been finished like that. It was an incredible win. But you could argue, Marina has done more lately. And again, we can't ignore that Zhang is coming off 2 straight losses to Rose before the win. So is that the right call in your opinion? Again, you're not going to make the decision. I'm sure you'll fight whoever they put in front of you. But is Zhang more deserving than Marina in your opinion?
I don't think she is. I think that Marina has, won 5 straight. I think she's beaten top level competition. I mean, she's been staying active, and for me, she's proven herself. She deserves a title shot. But for whatever reason, I'm sure there's a lot that goes into it. Weili's getting the shot, and like you said, for me, I fight whoever's put in front of me, but doesn't necessarily mean I think it's fair or was the right call. As far as the athlete goes.
Yeah, I think it would have been, weirdly, I think it would have been different if Joanna had won because we have the story, right? Like you and her in a rematch would be a cool story, a chance for you to avenge a loss. With Zhang, and again, nothing against Zhang, it was an incredible knockout, but it's a little harder of a sell to me when you do have Marina out there. Like she is on a good streak. She's looked great. You guys had a great fight before. And again, a little natural. Again, that's just my opinion, but it's nothing against Zhang. It's just I think the Joanna story would have been better. Versus, like I said, Marina's actually on a little and looking good. She's had some really, really impressive wins.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, every time I watch Marina, I see her getting better and better and beating top girls. And, even, having to knock somebody out twice in one fight in Amanda Ribas, it's, she's impressive. And, I definitely think that she earned the title fight. And, this is just the way it goes with the UFC. Sometimes, whether it's marketing or whatever else they're reasoning, and that's just kind of how it goes. And you have to just roll with the punches.
Yeah. Now, I know you said in another interview, which, by the way, not that you need me to give you a standing ovation, but I freaking loved what you said when somebody asked you about Zhang calling you out for October and saying, let's meet in October, Abu Dhabi, equal ground, neither of us having a home field advantage, that kind of thing. And you said, I'm not working on her timeline. I'm on my timeline. I'm the champion. And you admitted, and we've talked about this, that, you kind of got rushed into your first title defense coming off the Ultimate Fighter. I mean, that was a crazy year for you. You go in, you beat the fighter. Everyone's saying it's going to be the next Ronda Rousey, all these kind of things. And then barely 3 months later, you're in a title fight again. No rest, no downtime, no vacation, and boom, you're right in there. And I know you take nothing away from Joanna from that victory, but it was just a weird set of circumstances. How much did that weigh on your mind when you hear her saying, let's do it in October, and you're saying, hold on now, I'm not going to get rushed back before I'm ready to come back?
Yeah, most definitely. I would say that, fighting Joanna so quickly after, that was my 5th fight in 8 months. I would say fighting that quickly back has to be one of my biggest regrets in my career. And it's not, and then I ended up going in, I wasn't 100%, I ended up tearing my shoulder in that fight. And, for me, it's not taken away from Joanna's victory because I made the decision to step in the octagon. That was my choice. But what I'm taking away from that is I have to learn my lesson. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I've definitely gotten some backlash on social media about, there's no way you got injured in that fight and, nothing even happened. People kind of, some of the trolls smack talking, but what people don't realize, this is a brutal sport. The camp going into these fights, is brutal, and no fighter, is most likely going to go into any fight 100%. I had this finger dislocated and taken backwards about a week or two before the fight. I couldn't even have anyone grab my hand without like screaming in pain. I think I did scream one time at the gym, like, like, yeah, everyone like turned around, but I'm like, I'm okay. But just, and I'm getting 2 MRIs next week, things that, the doctor checked out, says it doesn't like look serious, but, I just want to be sure. I want to go into this fight camp 100%. And I want to be my best. As everyone saw from the fight last week, Weili's a dangerous an opponent, and I want to go into this fight 100%. And I'm not going on her timeline or where she thinks is best. I'm going to go where the UFC places us. This is a US based company. You can't pick and choose and say, I don't want to fight in the US.
Yeah, absolutely understand. Is the MRI, is that for the finger? Is that what you're getting the MRI on your hand?
No, it's a couple other things. This happened before the fight, and some things were kind of just aggravated or, got worse in the fight. I mean, I was getting my thumb worked on like every single day before the fight week. I was working with the UFC PI staff, and it's like we go into fights not 100%, and that's pretty much every fight. And I need time to recover, need time to rehab, and my body is like pretty good. I've been getting a lot better, but before you start hitting a camp hard or start training hard, at this position in my career, I want to make sure that, there's nothing serious and just kind of cover my bases. So I already had an appointment with the doctor. I have my MRI on Tuesday. So for me, I'm just, making sure everything's good. Doctor said, like I said, doesn't seem like anything is too serious, but just want to cover my bases. And I'm hoping to fight by the end of this year, most definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a smart decision to make, especially with something like that. I hear it all the time from fighters. The damage doesn't usually happen in the fight. It happens in the training camp. That's when you kind of put your body through hell because you're doing it for 8-10 weeks of just, beating the crap out of your body. Again, I don't want to nail you down on the timeline because, again, you're going to see your doctor and go through the MRI and you'll probably get a more definitive timeline. But are you thinking like November, December? Would that kind of be ideal for you in your head right now? Again, I'm not going to pin you down to name a date, but would that kind of be the idea?
Yeah, ideally November, December seems fine for me. Even if I have to do a little bit of rehab over the next month and not, kick up, training mode, fight camp style, like quite yet, at least it'll give me time to kind of recover. And you talk about my longevity in this sport, and my longevity, I would have to say I attribute a lot of that to my willingness to give my injuries recovery time, my rehab, my just taking care of my body. Like you don't stay in this sport for almost, 12, 13 years at the top of it, just kind of not caring about, maintaining your body and keeping it at optimal performance.
Yeah. Well, I love that you acknowledge, what went wrong, taking the fight with Joanna when you did. And you mentioned, just a big regret doing that and learning from that and coming out of that. And now knowing you're the champion, Zhang Weili is a dangerous opponent. You don't want to go in there at 80% or 85%. You want to go in there as healthy as possible. And listen, even if you fight in December, that's still 2 fights this year. That's pretty average for a champion. Like that's not like, it's not like you're going to be sitting out for a year and saying, I want to fight next March. You're saying by the end of the year, so it's not like it's that big of a deal. But again, it's your timeline. You need to take that time to make sure you're ready. Because as well as I do, some people rush back in there, they get an opportunity, they hear the people calling them out, and they say, okay, I'll do it. And it ends in disaster. And you can't take it back. You're champion now. You can't risk that.
Exactly. And, I'm not one who's going to like sit out for a year and just, just chill with the belt. For me, like I want to stay active. I want to fight. As you see in my career, I've never turned down one opponent. I've fought the best of the best. I love fighting. This is, and I'm down to fight whoever. I actually tried to fly out to Singapore to watch that fight with the UFC, but it didn't work out with their booking. But like I've actually accepted 2 fights with Weili, and she turned them down when she was champ. So I'm not afraid to fight anybody. I just got to do it on my timeline.
So they actually had tried to book you against Zhang before as champion?
Yes. When there was kind of a hold on the fight with that was supposed to happen with Rose and Weili, they offered me the fight with Weili twice, and I accepted both times. One was a little longer time, one was shorter notice, but I was like, hey, I'm I don't care if it's 1 week. Like the opportunity to fight for the belt, I'm gonna take any opportunity. And I said yes, and she said no.
Wow,
So
that's kind of crazy.
I even have messages, like from people who saw the media being ready to put out at the one of the pay-per-views, I think in like November or something, where they were like, ready to announce a fight between me and Weili. But they kept waiting to get to hear back from her if she was going to accept it, and it ended up that she didn't.
Yeah. Does that, I mean, not that, again, I'm sure, they offer you the contract, you'll gladly sign it, but does that also change your perspective a little bit when she's saying, let's go in October, or all this, and you're kind of thinking to yourself, didn't you turn me down like twice already? Like, let's slow down on this whole demanding kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I feel like she's acting like, or I don't even want to, like try and, name call it or anything, but I'll just say that, she's, putting her requests out there, and she has every right to try and push for a date in a location that she wants. But, like I said, she's not the champ, and, it's going to go on my timeline on when I'm healthy and when I can start, a strong camp and be at my best for, this super tough opponent.
Yeah. Can I ask real quick before I let you go, Carla? Again, we'll talk, once the fight actually happens. And again, nothing's set in stone. Let's be clear about that. We know the UFC changes their mind. They could book Marina Rodriguez tomorrow and she gets another big win, and then they decide to go to her, because we know how this sport works. We had this scary conversation several times after your win. Like, why didn't they give you the title shot instead of Rose, when she was doing the rematch, or instead of Zhang, excuse me, for the rematch right away. But anyways, and hypothetically, it ends up being Zhang. How do you like that matchup? How do you like that matchup with Zhang? Because I imagine at this point, considering you were offered and accepted fights against her in the past, you probably have broken it down in your head. How do you match up with her?
Zhang is just continually like improving her grappling and everything. I mean, she's getting better. So it's hard to say. I'd really have to sit down and study the fight. I think she's, a well-rounded fighter. She's good pretty much everywhere. I think she's dangerous everywhere. So for me, I have to work through my camp, and I think that I can beat her. I think that I can beat anyone, but I have to definitely put a lot of work in and start putting size back on, because I know she's a larger opponent. So, I've got a lot of work to do, but I'm definitely going in there to win it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it is a good matchup, whether it's that or Marina, however it ends up playing out. And I say that because you and I both know nothing is done until contracts are signed and returned. Nothing is a done deal in this sport. So I look forward to that, whatever it is. But again, I'm not that you need my approval, but I am glad that you are taking the time to be prepared and not rushing back just because somebody called you out or any of that kind of stuff. Because I think some people get caught up in that and they make mistakes. And listen, go in as healthy as you possibly. You never go in 100%, so why start out at a diminished, why start out diminished when you go into a camp right now? Why would you even do that to yourself? So I like that you're saying, hey, I'll be back. I'll gladly fight Zhang Weili. It's just not going to be on her timeline.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, thank you so much for your words. They're always very much appreciated.
Absolutely. Well, Carla, thank you so much again for the time. Congratulations again on the championship win, becoming champion again. It was an incredible achievement. As I said, whether you never fight again or you fight tomorrow, you've already entered that greatest of all time conversation. Absolutely. Congratulations again on the wedding. Hopefully married life is treating you well. And thank you as always for the time. I really do appreciate it.
Thanks so much. Good talking to you.